Hello everyone, today I'll be doing a solo Grandmaster Battleground Mars with Hunter. For my subclass I'll be using Night Stalker. Here are the mods and fragments I'll be using this video. This is going to be the mini rocket build, mainly focus on using rockets, dealing with the champions and the mini boss. This week I decided to go for the Hunter run and go for the platinum rank. I decided to use the exotic helmet, which is probably the most meta for this season, and I will take advantage of it. I will be doing the mini cheese or the easy way dealing with the towers. First things first, do not touch the thralls. So this also works with a fire team, so tell your fire team not to touch any thralls and to follow you. You must go all the way from the back and take down the C. So I did shoot a rocket at B just to make it easier to break the rocks. So I do want to capture C, so I will make sure that I break the rocks. And the reason why I pull back there is sometimes the acolytes can be a bungee and they like to throw fire at you. So I am going to stand here and touch grass and then just think about this Battlegrounds and tell myself, why am I even doing this and why Battlegrounds are in GMs. Try my best to think and progress my mind and maybe touch grass and then come back to the game. I'm going to wait for C to be captured. And then that's when we had to deal with B. Or in other words, I like to call it the bungee. Yes, we're going to be trying to capture bungee since it's called B. So before we capture bungee, right, and once we capture the first tower, there will be a mini boss that will spawn from the far right. Do not touch him. You must deal with the thralls that will be capturing B. We must break the rocks. And the reason I say do not attack the mini boss is because we want to skip 2 champions and just save 5 minutes of our life. So you must break the rocks and then just wait patiently and try to capture B, or in other words, try to capture bungee. So there will be 2 thralls that will stand behind bungee or the B area. So I'm waiting for all these thralls to just pass by. And the reason why I was getting a little bit upset there is because of console aim assist or auto aiming was making my rocket move for some reason. So once we kill the 2 thralls, which for some reason is 85 points, we're going to be waiting for bungee to be captured and wait for 2 thralls to go inside the B plate. So once that happens, you use Wish Ender to take down the acolytes, or I like to call them the fire dudes because they like to spam fire and ruin your runs all the time. So once we capture bungee, we're going to be dealing with C. And then you know what's the best part? When you do kill the Pacific thralls, no barrier or unstoppable champion will spawn. You will only have to deal with the mini boss. And then of course dealing with the A plate or capturing the A area. So once we capture bungee tower, we're going to go all the way from the back side and deal with the mini boss. Now I can't think of nicknames to call A, so I'm just going to call it the A tower. So I'm going to go all the way from the back and we're going to spend some time dealing with the mini boss. This will take some time, so forgive me that I am not using my rockets. The reason why I'm not using my rockets is because I want to deal with the Arc Knights, and it will be just much faster to deal with that than to waste my heavy dealing with this mini boss. So I am going to do a mini time skip here because I don't want to waste 2 minutes of your life. Once I deal with the mini boss, since it took almost 2 minutes of my life, now we could finally be able to capture A. But before we capture A, I usually just take down the Arknights because they're the ones that just give me a headache when trying to deal with the shiny mini boss, which will activate the Shrieker, give everyone overshields, and it's just a mess. And not only that, you won't be able to use your super, you won't be able to use your smoke for the hunter. It is a big pain in the bungee. And yes, I am using the term bungee because I do not want to swear, and I am on a streak of not swearing in any of my videos. So I will be a little risky here. And the reason why is because I was just losing my patience dealing with Battlegrounds. I would advise to just back away of where I'm standing and then just deal with the Arknights. Now for me, I'm playing a bit aggressive because I just want them to get eliminated. Not only that, I'm taking advantage of the void crystals because I get devour and I get my health back. So you don't really have to do this method if you do feel uncomfortable, or if it is causing you to get one shot sometimes at the Arknights. You can also pull back and then just deal with the ads, because at this part there is no infinite waves of ads until later on, which we will talk about later. I do have Devour activated with my Hunter, so I decided to clear the ads, and then now I'm just looking for Heavy. I don't want to use the Heavy box. I want to use that for the Ghost encounter, but if you are in a rush and you have no patience, I would just pick up the Heavy brick box. But for me, I was somehow and surprised I had some patience. So I was just looking for Heavy and then just going to deal with the mini boss that will try his best to activate the Shrieker and just make life a bungee. I am going to be waiting for my super, so I am going to do a mini time skip here. I do recommend you use your super when dealing with the mini boss. Once I do have my super, I'm going to break the last rocks and then deal with the mini boss. I like to call him the shiny mini boss. So right now, I'm going to break the rocks. Once again, my mistake there. And I'm going to be using my super and using my suppressing grenades. You can also use that to slow it down. And always remember to use your rocket as much as you can. You can also use aggressive frame rocket. I don't really have a good one at the moment. That's why I'm using this rocket as a backup in case I don't have the right perks from the void rocket. And the reason why I use the void rocket is because of the void surge. I get 25% buff. And because it has clown cartridge, it really works so good on dealing with the champions with DPS fast damage, which is what you want for this GM. So once we did take down the mini boss, as you can see, the Shrieker will not open. So you don't have to worry about the Shrieker at all. But you do need to definitely deal with the unstoppable champions. Now, the first objective is to deal with the unstoppable champions. So if you are with your fire team, you can lure the fire team at this section, or you can go from the opposite direction with using the Well of Radiance or the Well Super for your Warlock, or if you prefer the Strand build, you can definitely use that. Or if you do have a hunter, they can use the power of invisibility and invis your friends or your clanmates or your LFG blueberries, anything you want. But I do recommend dealing with the support champions at this part. I wouldn't bother myself dealing with the Arc-Knights, but be aware of the Acolyte from the left side. The left side, as you can see here, yes, I said that. Sometimes they like to throw fire at you, and that's why I turn off the music so I can hear my surroundings better. And I will give nicknames, so Acolytes, Fire Dudes, they like to throw fire. And they do the sneak attack. And they can sometimes one-shot you if you just stand too long. So I do recommend dealing with the Unstoppable champions. And then just be aware of your surroundings from the right side. Well, left side. And if you're using a scout, which I do recommend, you can just spam of getting heavy bricks, spam of getting orbs. So right now I'm trying to do some damage with the Arc-Knights and then try to get some rocket bricks. So there is going to be an infinite of Acolytes, but for some reason for this area I do not remember 4 months ago of the old version of Mars. You can get rid of the Arc-Knights and they don't respawn after that. But the Acolytes and the Thralls will infinitely respawn over and over again. So your first objective will have to deal with the Arc-Knights. You can stand right here, and this is also the perfect spot when you do want to clear all these ads at the beginning before capturing A. Because I know on the beginning I was being a bit too aggressive, and that's just me being impatient. Nobody's perfect. And once you deal with all the Arc-Knights, just take advantage of the Devour. Or if you want Warlock with Devour, you can do that, or Strand Warlock. And for the fire team, if you are Well Warlock, you could just pop a Well of Radiance with your fire team, and then you could just stand here because I noticed that it is just Acolytes and Thralls. You can also spam your finisher since we are using the fragment to make the ads to have volatile rounds. That is one thing I really love about this build, and I do recommend you use suppressing grenades. People have forgotten that suppressing grenades also can overload champions and can also overload enemies, and it can really help a lot. Not only that, it can also blind enemies as well, such as mini bosses, mini Arc-Knights. I do recommend if you are not using weakened grenades. If you are using a weakened grenade build, then vortex grenades will be good to go. But if you are not using that and you're using the build just like mine, I do recommend using suppressing grenades. Now this part's going to be probably the most trickiest and the most painful I have ever seen in any game, any first person shooter I have ever seen, where you have to break somewhat these orbs, and then we gotta protect the ghost for some reason because it gets all shy and emotional and clingy that it wants your guardian to be close to it. I'm not even over exaggerating, but that's basically what you have to do. You have to defend the ghosts, and then when you have champions that will spawn and the mini shiny bosses, you have to make sure you take them down. And then you have to watch the ghosts because it gets emotional and clingy. So first things first, you must deal with the champion. 2 of them, 1 barrier, 1 unstoppable. During this part, I didn't use my rocket. And the reason why I didn't use it is because I want to deal with the champions that will spawn during the mini waves. I would say 3 waves when defending the ghosts. So I want to save my rockets, and I want to save rockets on the box from the left side. That is actually the emergency. Like if I ran out of heavy bricks, I don't have any more, I'm all out, I need it, I can just turn invisible and then grab the heavy bricks. For me, it is the emergency heavy bricks, but if you don't care about that, which I'm pretty sure 90% would not care at all, then you could just spam your rockets and then pick up the heavy bricks. But for me, I like to be super cautious and try always having the plan B, not the plan bungee, maybe, not really sure. You know, I don't really trust it too much, but always have plan B just in case you need heavy. Because rockets or using rockets is going to be your best friend for life for this GM to make it work and to deal with the champions fast and efficient. Now, this is when things get a little tricky. So I do recommend just do a couple of shots with Wish Ender. And then once you see the Arknights, which is what you have to be most wary about, and the Acolytes, do a little bit of damage and then just spam invisibility. So this is when things get tricky, and I do recommend just to pull back when it's close to exactly 25%. When it is 25%, you must pull back and try your best to deal with the champions and try to flinch them or bait them. So for here, I pull back because I saw champion has appear, and this is when sometimes the bigger champion can actually be a bit close to the exit door, and this is when you need to use your super. Now sometimes this method doesn't 100% work. If it doesn't 100% work, then what you need to do is try your best to deal with an unstoppable champion if you do see it on a good spot, and use Wish Ender. Now if you don't see the unstoppable champion, which is over here, this perfect example, then you must turn invisible, stagger the unstoppable champion, and then just use your super. Or you can just use 2 rockets and then pull back, your rinse repeat. This is when there's going to be infinite amount of ads, and this is something that I thought maybe Bungie would fix and stop infinity of painfulness, and something really ridiculous that just doesn't make sense in a strike, or this is not really a strike. So my bad for that. Even though it is a strike, but it's not. So I'm gonna be staggering the unstoppable champion and then using 2 rockets and pull back. The reason why I do that is because there are these curse thralls, too much things going on, which my hunter has no high recovery, and I don't want to stay there too long. So once I use 2 rockets, and yes, I know the rocket is not that strong, but for me, it did help me out dealing with the champions, and especially dealing with the Arknights at the final boss. So I did wait for my super, and I am going to pull back and go back to deal with the champion. So I was just making sure my surroundings, because I want to make sure I do as much rockets as I can, and then use my finisher to deal with it. Unfortunately, the unstoppable champion didn't have finisher on, so I decided to wait patiently and then see if I want to deal with the unstoppable champion and then just thrush through. So right now I'm gonna go on top of this edge, just look at my surroundings, see everything's okay, use my rocket, use the smoke, and then use my finisher. So at this part, since we deal with both the champions, I decided to pull back because I want to bait the knights. See, these Arknights are infinite until the last phase-ish. Yeah, I know it's complicated. So I want to bait these Arknights to come downstairs because I want to have an easier time dealing with capturing the ghosts or defending the ghosts, my bad, and then dealing with the mini boss and then the champions. So once I bait them and they're staying at the bottom, at least one of them or 2 of them, then I'm gonna go back, defend the ghosts, and then since it's clingy, very clingy ghost, it wants you to to stay as close as possible because it can't do it by itself for some reason. We're going to be turning invisible and then just wait until 50%. Or if I'm mistaken, it could be a little bit more. We want to make sure we spawn the champions and then we have to pull back. Because these champions and the mini boss, they will stop your ghosts from opening the door. So once we see champions has appear and the mini boss, we're gonna pull back and try to bait them, flinch them. Because one thing I really want to do is try to stagger them and then use my rocket. So I can at least do some damage. So that's basically what I'm doing here. So always make sure when you see champion has appear, pull back as fast as you can. I know Hunter is slow and I know Titans and Warlocks is extremely way more faster when trying to go to a different area, trying to move away. But hey, we gotta deal with the Hunter. Alright. So once I did some damage, I decided to go up and then just see what's going on. And I was debating what to do here. So because the champion was still alive, I used my tether on the champion and then the mini boss. Now you have to be extremely careful here. It didn't look safe, so I decided to pull back. I pulled back because acolytes were shooting at me, and then the Arc Knights were shooting solar, which they do so much damage since it is solar threat. Now what I need to do over here is bait the Arc Knights and then bait the Thralls. Mainly the Arc Knights. I don't really take down the Arc Knights because they are infinite. So I'm trying to control the ad or the ad control and try to bait these knights to go downstairs and then try my best to do some damage of the health. Just in case something happens or they're too close to me, I can use my finisher. In case they try to one-shot me, at least I'll have a chance to use finisher so they won't send me back to orbit. So once I bait the knights and the acolytes, now I can stagger the unstoppable champion, use 2 of my rockets, or 1 rocket, my bad for that. And then I can use my finisher, and then use my finisher at the mini boss. And then now I can go and hack the ghosts, or try to defend the ghosts. So there were too many cursed thralls, so I did pull back. It was way too much and too risky. And this is me trying to get heavy bricks, but it's not working for some reason. Even with explosive payload, for some reason on that spot, it wasn't letting me grab the heavy. Now you could say I could just grab the heavy, but I don't trust those traps. So I decided to just not touch it at all. So now I'm going to be defending the ghosts, and this is going to be the 3rd phase coming up where things can be a little tricky. One thing I noticed about the last phase is that if you take down one of the mini bosses, the Arc Knights stop becoming infinite. I could be mistaken. I haven't done enough testing, and I don't think I want to bother myself going back to do more testing, since Battlegrounds just seem completely not worth of my time. I'm going to be defending the ghosts, and once it hits around 75%, I'm going to be pulling back and then try to see if I can bait the mini boss, bait the champion if I can. You can also take down the bigger champions for far distance, but it's just too risky and it's just too much luck. The problem of taking down the bigger champion from this spot is acolytes will push, Arcanites will push, and you can see here for example, and it's just too risky, and I really don't recommend it too much unless you're strong very strong super and strong heavy, but at the same time, it's just not worth it. So for me, I'm going to deal with the mini boss, well, the ogre, since it is standing still and it is getting debuffed from the artifact mod that we are using, and I completely forgot what is the name, so please forgive me. I still have long COVID and my memory is a bit blurry at the moment of remembering all the names. If you're wondering what I'm doing here is I on purpose shoot a rocket so I can get 2 rockets when I reload. I want to make sure I had 2 rockets, especially dealing with the champion or the mini boss. And this is when things can be a little tough. So right now I am just trying to bait them to go down. And you can see there is an Arcanite, which I want to take down. Well, not take down, but try to do some damage, not too much. In case something weird happens and I can use my finisher. So very soon I will use my invisibility and then just deal with the mini boss. So we got a barrier champion and we got a mini boss. Great. Nothing could go wrong, right? So because this Arc Knight or this mini boss knight was being extremely aggressive, I had no choice but to use my super at the Arc Knight, and I think it's best to deal with the Knight mini boss over the Bear Champion. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes the Arc Knight can go aggressive and it can one-shot you. It has one-shot me many times. There are times which it didn't happen to me, but it happened to people who I know where it didn't one-shot them. But unfortunately, it one-shots me and I just don't want to risk that. I don't want to risk that. So for me, not worth it. So there are 2 methods over here. So because we took down the mini boss, or at least one of the bosses, now the infinite knights are gone. So from what I see is the Arc Knights don't seem to spawn infinitely. For some reason, I could be mistaken, but during this part I decided to just farm the thralls, the cursed thralls, and most definitely just wait for my super. So you can actually farm the infinite amount of ads. And then once you have your super, you can use it for the barrier champion. So I'm going to do a mini time skip here. I'm just trying my best to get my super. So I was actually taking my time clearing the ads. And if you guys notice, there's not a lot of ads during this phase when you kill one of the mini bosses. So here I notice infinite Arc Knights seem to be gone. So now I'm going to be dealing with the barrier champion and then use my super. And then once I take down the barrier champion, then Arc Knights will spawn again. And then this is when you have to capture, well, defend the ghost. Scan the ghost and then just defend it. So right now I was just scouting, seeing what's going on, see if there's any Arcanites that spawn, and I was just looking left and right, and everything seems to be safe. So I just decided to scan the ghost since it is extremely clingy, and then just wait until it goes to 100%. You have to be extremely careful with the Arcanites since they are extremely dangerous with their solar attack. Now I could have used my finisher, but it was too risky because of these cursed thralls were just walking all over the place. But if you notice during this phase, not a lot of ads. Extremely short, the infinite has stopped. So that's one little tiny change they did for this Mars version. I still prefer dealing with a giant worm or strange terrain or in other words, will of 1,000s over Battlegrounds. So I am going to go through the lasers, so I do apologize if I was rushing here. This is me being extremely impatient. I usually double jump on that part. It works for me, it also works for my Warlock, it works for my Titan, everyone's different. I never really do the one jump. I always do double jump and then try to gain a little momentum. So for this part, I did spam the invisibility to avoid the lasers, just to rush through. There is these acolytes that will try to throw fire at you, but since we are in the invisibility subclass, there's really no need to even be worried about them. You can just go ahead and then just spam invisibility left and right, and then just rush through. So there is lasers from the right side, but because we're invisible, it cannot really see you. Yeah, isn't this fun? I love Battlegrounds. It's such an amazing idea, right? Joke aside, I still hate Battlegrounds, even though they nerfed it a little bit. I still hate it. I'm probably the only solo player in this community that hates Battlegrounds. For GMs and pretty much everything for Battlegrounds. So there's going to be 2 barrier champions that will spawn. I like to take down the Arknights because for some reason they seem to be more powerful than the barrier champion at this spot. I don't know why. It's weird. It's awkward. I mean, there's really no room. Can't really breathe too much at this part. You can see the arc blast did so much damage. Ridiculous. I only have 1 arc resilience, but you can see why I decided to spam my rockets to deal with the gold Arknights. Their arc blast can shoot from far distance and it's extremely ridiculous. It isn't even arc surge and then they're doing so much damage. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Why? Why, Bungie? I don't understand why these Arknights are doing more damage than the champion. It's extremely ridiculous. So once you push forward, you can pull back and then deal with the 2 barrier champions. So the 2 barrier champions will spawn left and right. It is or I do advise to take them down as quickly as possible. If not, they're going to be doing ballerina twirls, huddle up, clingy, and they're going to show off their dance moves, and they're going to protect each other, and it's a pain in the Bungie. You don't want to deal with it. It's too much work. So make sure you use your heavy, use your rocket. You'll get heavy back since you are using Wish Ender. So I wouldn't really bother yourself saving rockets. Just use it if you have it. And that's basically what I did in this part. So now there's going to be these acolytes, these thralls. So make sure you use your bow. I'm not really sure why I used my scout. I think I was just trying to mix up a bit. Just to show you that the scout is good for getting orbs and heavy. But it's not that great dealing with thralls because Wish Ender can one-shot, but the legendary scout rifle cannot do that. Which is why I do recommend to use Wish Ender. I mean, why not use Wish Ender? Battlegrounds is just such a drag and extremely boring and painful. The most safest to get things done faster is just using Wish Ender. So I am going to be pulling back. You can also go on top of the platform and then just wait for the reinforcements. For me, I'm going to do the easy way or the lazy way. or the bungee way, and I'm just gonna stand here, maybe do some emojis here and there. You don't have to do this. I don't really recommend you do this because sometimes the acolytes can throw fire at you. I would just pull back a little bit and then just wait. So I am gonna do a mini time skip here. Now we're back. I'm just extremely confused right now. My guardian is confused and frustrated. She's not happy about this season. I don't blame her. I mean, look at her. She's just shaking her head, having headaches just like I do when I do GMs, Battlegrounds. She's just waiting for reinforcements to save us. And now I'm just going to touch grass for a while. Oh, I do see glimmer from the right side. I don't know why I didn't pick it up. I mean, you look really pretty there. So shiny. So now I'm going to be dealing with more champions, wizard. I do recommend to try your best to take down the wizard because the wizard is the one that's going to mess up your DPS. Now I could have used a rocket. I wasn't sure why I didn't use it. I think for this video, for this run, I was just being a little bit overcautious because since I'm at the stairs and then the solar attack could do half of my health, and then the arc blast does so much damage for the wizard. It was just too much work, too risky to deal with it, so I just decided to just wish ender away, hide, wish ender, hide, wish ender, hide. It did work pretty well dealing with the barrier champion. I mean, he's not doing the ballerina twirls, so I was happy about that. So I decided to just use my super to the unstoppable champion. Now I could use my super now, but the problem is it's not going to damage the unstoppable champion, and it's just a waste of time. Plus you're gonna get your super back when you start the boss fight, so you might as well make it useful in my opinion. So just take down all the ads and then just use your super at the champion, since the unstoppable champion for some reason has more health. Well, it has a lot of health. Like, even though I used my super, I still couldn't 100% take him down compared to a barrier champion. So it was just a lot of work, not worth it. So just use your super on unstoppable champion. Now this is gonna be the best part. So before I start the boss fight, I'm just testing the mini cheese spot. So this was my first attempt of dealing with the final boss. The reason why I did that test is just because I don't want any mistakes when I start the boss fight. I always like to double check, especially on my first attempts at the boss fight. I like to check the room, check the area, and then do DPS. And then deal with the final boss. So I am gonna bait the final boss, the Dark Blade. Woo. There is another cheese spot from the opposite direction, but it's not really that safe for me. Everyone is different, so for me, it's not really safe. I don't like it. So now I'm going to be doing DPS, dealing with the final boss. And then the best part is we got to deal with 2 more champions at the boss fight. Yeah, that's going to be extremely painful. So I will do a mini time skip of doing DPS at the boss. And now we're going to be at the next phase. This is the phase when there's going to be 2 champions. Now, just to let everyone know, I do recommend you take down unstoppable champion. And if you don't care about platinum, you just want a solo completion, then just skip the barrier champion and then just focus on the orbs. This is just optional for players who just want a completion. And yes, my hunter is stressed out. I don't blame her. I mean, this is a ridiculous Battlegrounds GM. Yeah, and it's worse than the moon. Isn't that funny? And Europa is still a pain without the cheese. So now I'm going to be turning invisible. And I'm going to be dealing with the Arknights. So I will take down the champions. I'm just multitasking. The reason why I'm multitasking is the unstoppable champion was not in a good spot. And I was trying to figure out if it can move a little bit more to the edge so I can deal with it from far distance. It didn't look like it was going to work out, so I had to think of a plan B. Now, if I was using the glaive, oh my goodness, with unstoppable, oh my bungee, I would have taken down the unstoppable champion right away, already done. But can't do that since I'm using the scout, unfortunately. Glaive would be so much easier to deal with the Arknights and then to deal with the champions if it was unstoppable glaive. I mean, that's just my opinion, by the way, but just letting everyone know it would have been easier. But oh well, every season is different. So now I'm just trying to bait, still multitasking. And I was trying to see where the champion is. It looks like he's too close to the barrier. Doesn't look good. Extremely awkward. But as I said before, if you don't care about platinum, then forget about what I'm doing and just focus on the Arc Orbs. But I do recommend to try to take down the stoppable champion at least, because sometimes it'll just stomp you. I don't trust it to even get close to it. So yeah, I'm just scouting, looking, trying to figure out to deal with the champions. You know, I could have got this run done already, 48 minutes, but nope. Can't do that because, well, I have to deal with the champions for platinum rank. That was the problem for this run. And I had to be extremely patient, try to see if the unstoppable champion can walk a little bit more, and it was just extremely frustrating. And then the wizards, so be aware of the wizards. They can hit hard with the arc blast. So now I'm just trying to find another spot to deal with the unstoppable champion. It is just extremely awkward. So I was standing here trying to see if I can deal with this champion, but it was just going around circles at the probably the worst area ever. And then later on, I did realize if I go to the stairs, and then I can use my super. So basically, I did this method and it worked out pretty great. So I did pull back to recover and to scout and spam my emoji. And yes, I did put the confused emoji because that's basically how I feel through this entire season. I am extremely confused and disappointed. And that's how my guardian feels as well. So the mini boss is at front. You can also use a smoke. You can throw a smoke at yourself and then just resume. I was just trying to figure out if I was able to use finisher at the unstoppable champion. That's basically what I'm trying to do here. And I was just being extremely cautious, dealing with my surroundings. And then now I'm going to see if I can use finisher. And it looked like it had the icon. Once I dealt with that, then I was thinking of just gathering 4 orbs and then deal with the bigger champion. So during this part, I'm going to just get the arc orbs. Since I need to wait for my super again to deal with the bigger champion, now this is the best time to grab the arc orbs. And this is probably the most easiest. If you're using a rocket and suppressing grenades, then this is probably going to be the easiest for you. As I said before, if you don't want platinum, you just want a solo run completion, then forget about the bigger champion. Pretend it's not there. Alright, just pretend and then just complete it. Just grab the orbs and then just get it done. I only did this just to make a point and tell you guys I still hate Battlegrounds. And I could have a good excuse because no one can comment and say, well, Blitz, you never got platinum, that's why you don't like it. No, I got platinum. I can say my rights and say this is probably the worst idea ever, and I still hate Battlegrounds. Even though they nerfed it a bit. Don't care. Extremely painful and boring. Now I'm gonna be crying. My poor guardian. Maybe I should put that in my thumbnail next time. Like I should put like my crying poor guardian in a stress moment. Because that's basically how I feel. So now I'm going to be looking left and right. I need to grab 3 more arc energy orbs and then deal with a bigger champion. And yes, my guardian is extremely stressed out. If the Arknight's full health, the best way, in my opinion, everyone's different, is you can actually throw your grenade and then you can use a rocket. It just helps so much. It's so useful. I mean, you overload the Arknight and it's blind. Extremely useful. Then you can use your finisher, grab the orb, and then just make your way to dunk the orb. I do recommend to use your smoke because you'll still hold the orb. You won't let go. So once I do that, I pull back and then just wait for my invisibility. Now on my old footage, I did use 6 Coyote. I decided to switch to the exotic helmet just to make it more faster to run and make it more easier since I want to focus more on invisibility. 6 Coyote is good, but it just takes a bit of skill with the invisibility. You have to rely on finishers, and I just could not bother myself dealing with that. And I already did it with 6 Coyote 4 months ago or 5 months ago. And when you are using 6 Coyote, the invisibility is not long enough. And I just don't think it's worth it for this Battlegrounds at all. But maybe I would use 6 Coyote if I was able to use a glaive. That I could use it. Because you can get bomber faster, you can get your grenade faster, you can dodge if you need to reload your glaive. Just works very beautiful when using 6 Coyote. Because this is probably the most meta and I want to make life easier, I decided to use the exotic helmet to grab a top. Now I'm going to be turning invisible. I was just waiting for my invisibility. And I saw the boss a little bit too close to the Arknight. So I decided to just bait the boss because he was way too close. See, the problem is if I use my finisher, he's going to one-shot me. So he is extremely dangerous. And I don't want to risk it, especially spending 50 minutes of my life. I mean, can you imagine he one-shots you and then you'd start all over again and you were at 50 minutes or an hour or 2 hours? Yeah, I don't want to make that mistake. It has happened to me a long time ago on my test runs. after I completed it. I'm just trying to remember if I did it on my second go on Mars the first time or not. I could not remember at the moment. So I'm going to be grabbing one more orb, and then I'm going to be dealing with the barrier champion. Which is going to be, it's going to be extremely painful. I just not sure if I could say anything positive about it. So a choice I could do is I could deal with the Arcanine in front of me. I don't think I did that because I didn't want the boss to get close to the mini cheese spot because I saw the boss from the right side. So I decided maybe it's just way better to deal with the Arcanine from the opposite direction. And it just works for me. Everyone's different. So I throw a suppressing grenade, by the way. And then 2 rockets, finisher, done. It's just so easy. So easy to deal with these Arcanites when you have a rocket. In my opinion, everyone's different. I prefer that over a linear any day. Especially on console. It's just too much auto-aiming, console aim assist, and all those goody stuff that we despise. Now to deal with the barrier champion. Oh gosh, this is gonna be fun. So bad things happen here when I was dealing with the barrier champion, and yes, that is my poor guardian stressed out. You have to bait the barrier champion to be near the edge, close to the stairs, to do DPS. So it just takes a lot of patience to deal with the barrier champion. And then another problem is you have to be aware of your surroundings when dealing with the boss, because sometimes the boss can sneakily just one-shot you. So the only thing I can think of is maybe I should have been a little bit more far away to deal with the barrier champion, but I was just not patient enough to deal with it. And this was actually just going to be my first attempt to deal with the barrier. So if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to get the completion and not care less about platinum. That was my plan B, by the way, because it looks like it is required to use my super. Unless I was on Warlock with Healing Drift, then a big no. I don't really need my super to deal with the bigger champion, but for this I do. So now I'm going to be dealing with the champion, but like I said, I should have been a little bit more far away. You can see here, I try to use my super. I turned invisible because I was on red health because the Arcanites were shooting at me. Then once that happens, I use my Wish Ender to break the shield, and then just use my finisher. This was extremely risky to do. What I should have done is just clear a couple of ads during the last phase. Well, not the last phase, but the second phase. And then deal with the barrier champion. But I didn't have the patience to do it. And I just could not bother myself with this GM. So now I'm going to be turning invisible and then just get the last orb. Once I do get the last orb, then we're going to be doing DPS at the final boss. So I was just double checking, seeing what's going on. And then I use my finisher. I throw a snowball at it. For some reason, it works well. And then I'm going to be using the smoke again. And then just pull back. So one thing I do advise is once you dunk the final orb, you need to bait the boss. On this footage, I didn't do that. I was just waiting and waiting and not doing that. So that was one mistake that I did in this footage. So later I did realize that I do need to go down and bait the boss. So I'm going to do a many time skip here. Once I realized I need to bait the boss, So I decided to go down, bait the boss, and then come back to the mini cheese spot. So once that happens, then you can do DPS at the boss. The reason why I threw my suppressing grenade on the right side is because I don't want a wizard to shoot arc at me. Sometimes a wizard can float to the mini cheese spot. Sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to be doing DPS at the final boss, and then we can finally get the platinum rank. So I'm going to be spamming my wish ender. I don't really use a rocket. But for this footage, unfortunately, I forgot to use my super. But hey, we did take down the final boss. And because I hate this GM so much and hate Battlegrounds so much, I actually had my guardian take a selfie. You know, it wanted to touch grass around the corpse of the boss. Yes, I know it's mean, but hey, I don't like Battlegrounds. And it was just rolling around, and then I touched grass. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.